Speaker placement. It can be a little confusing, but believe me when I tell you it is extremely important. When you've invested thousands into a high-end stereo, you want to make sure you're getting the absolute best performance possible. Now there's a lot of science behind speaker placement, but that can take hours to explain. What I'd like to do for you today is to show you just some of the basic setups explained in the simplest way possible, or as I like to call it, in layman's terms. There are literally thousands upon thousands of speakers on the market today, each with their own unique sound. For the purposes of this video though, I'm going to demonstrate how to do a basic placement for a pair of floor standing speakers or bookshelves on stands. Room size plays one of the most important roles when placing your speakers. Unfortunately, rooms are like snowflakes. Everyone is different. There are a lot of variances to consider when it comes to rooms. Size, shape, furniture placement, wall coverings, all of it can affect the sound. So the first thing you need to do is measure the walls. An ideal room would be a rectangle shape like this one, which is 17.5 feet by 29 feet. You want to have an accurate measurement so you know how far to bring the speakers in from the wall. I cannot tell you how many homes I've been in and seen this. Makes you want to cringe. When the speaker is too close to the wall like this, it can result in exaggerated bass at low frequencies. However, if the speaker is too close to the listener, then you get almost no bass. The best starting point is the 1/5 method, 1/5 from the length and width of the room. So for our room, we will want to be 3.5 feet from the sides and 70 inches or a little under 6 feet from the back wall. With the 1/5 method, you also want to have the sitting position 1/5 from the front wall. Now, based on those measurements, our setup starting point will look more or less just like this. However, as you can clearly see, there is a lot of wasted space between our listening position and our speakers. So what we can do is actually shift both those positions a little bit closer to the back wall. Now, ideally in a room of this size, you want to have a minimum of 3 feet between the speakers and the wall. However, you can always approximate that distance depending on the size of your room. If you have front-ported speakers, you do have a little more play in the distance and could sit a little closer to the wall. If you have rear-ported speakers, you definitely want to have more room for the bass reflex to escape. Now is a good time to point out when you're doing your placement, you want to measure from the front of the speaker. The front has the acoustic center, that's where the drive units are, it's where you're going to get your optimal sound. If your room happens to be a perfect square, unfortunately the 1/5 method is not going to work. The way sound waves travel through a room depends on the length and width. When those measurements are the same, it can result in double exaggerated dips and highs, which if you're listening to at high volumes can get really annoying. For square rooms, the best place to start is by using the golden ratio. It's based on square symmetry. You want to break up that symmetry. The golden ratio, or 8:5 ratio, create rectangles in the corners of the room. The speakers can be placed along the lines from the rear corners of the wall through the front of the corners in the rectangle. The important thing is to break up the symmetry of the room. If your speakers are the same distance of length and width, the sound is probably gonna suck. Once you've distinguished a line, you can move the speakers back and forth and listen for what sounds best for you, the listener. When it comes to the listening position, especially if the music is in stereo, you want to be in a triangle. The common misconception is that most people think it's supposed to be an equilateral triangle. It's not. When recording in a studio, they will always have a perfect triangle setup because they are analyzing the music. When you're at home, you are listening to the music. You want to have that depth. And besides, the perfect triangle does not help if you are in the wrong point in the room. Once you've placed the speakers in roughly the right place, now you need to work on the correct angle or toe in. You don't want the speaker parallel to the wall, nor do you want them directly facing the listener. The best place to start is to have the speakers toed in towards the listening position, but still be able to see the inside panel of both speakers. When it comes to towing, a lot depends on the rest of the side walls in your room. Empty walls will give you a lot of acoustic reflection. However, items like bookshelves, picture frames, and curtains can greatly affect the sound, so you will have to adjust the toe accordingly. Now, I've had many people ask me if it is necessary to have diffusers behind the speakers like the ones we have in here. Absolutely not. The bass reflex emitted out of the back have low frequencies of about 40 to 50 Hz. You then have to find a material that dampens or diffuses that particular frequency. It's a lot easier and cheaper to make sure you have the proper speaker distance. After you have placed and towed in your speakers to where you think everything should be, now it's time to fine-tune. The most important tool for this job is your ears. There are analyzing tools, microphones, and computer programs that will help you place your speakers in the best scientific way possible. But there's not a program out there that listens the way you hear. The best way is to listen to a song over and over again and make the adjustments based on what sounds best to you. If you have the option, I would recommend getting a friend to help you, that way they can do all the legwork while you can sit back and listen. You want to make sure whatever song you're listening to has a nice repetitive bass. A couple of examples are Another One Bites the Dust by Queen, Get Lucky by Daft Punk, or Bad Guy by Billie Eilish. Something you can hear and feel consistently throughout the song. The best piece of advice I can give anyone attempting speaker placement is take your time. Spending the extra couple of hours now will give you years of listening enjoyment. I certainly hope you found this video informative as well as entertaining. If you did, please hit like and subscribe, and you too can enjoy the HiDEF lifestyle.